My son dropped me off at a dialysis center and never came back. I sat in that waiting room for 9 hours. The receptionist called him 31 times. He never answered. 2 weeks later, I found out why, and what I discovered in his garage made me call the police on my own child. Before we begin, if stories about family betrayal and finding the courage to stand up for yourself speak to you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Sapphire Revenge. I'd also love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments. It means more than you think. And just so you know, some details in this story have been adjusted for narrative and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental, but the message is very real. It was a Tuesday in early September when everything fell apart. The morning had started normally enough. My son Derek had offered to drive me to my dialysis appointment at Mercy Kidney Center in Asheville. I'd been going 3 times a week for almost a year now, ever since my kidneys started failing. Chronic kidney disease, stage 4. Not a death sentence, the doctors said, but close enough to smell it. Derek pulled up at 7:45, right on time. He was wearing his nice jacket, the charcoal one his wife had bought him last Christmas. I thought that was odd for a Tuesday morning, but I didn't say anything. He helped me out of the car, walked me to the front door, and said the words I'd heard 100 times. "I'll be back at noon, Mom, right when you're done." I squeezed his arm. "Thank you, sweetheart." He smiled, that smile he'd had since he was a little boy, warm and easy, the kind of smile that makes a mother believe anything. My session went the way it always did. 3.5 hours hooked up to a machine that cleaned my blood because my own body couldn't do it anymore. The nurses knew me by name. Rosa always brought me an extra blanket because I got cold. Jim, the technician, played oldies on his phone because he knew I liked Motown. By 11:45, I was done. Disconnected, bandaged, a little dizzy but steady enough. I gathered my purse, put on my cardigan, and walked to the lobby to wait. Noon came. No Derek. 12:15. I checked my phone. No messages. 12:30. I called him, straight to voicemail. I called again at 12:45. Voicemail. 1 o'clock. Voicemail. By 1:30. The receptionist, a young woman named Amber, noticed me still sitting there. She asked if everything was all right. "My ride is running late," I said. "I'm sure he's stuck in traffic." But Asheville doesn't really have traffic. Not the kind that makes you 2 hours late. Amber started calling Derek's number from the front desk phone. She called 5 times between 1:30 and 2. Nothing. She tried his wife, Vanessa. Nothing. She tried the home number I had on file. Nothing. By 3 o'clock, I'd been sitting in that lobby for over 3 hours past my pickup time. My legs were swelling. I needed my afternoon medication, which was at home. The dizziness from dialysis was getting worse. Amber brought me water, crackers, a pillow for my back. She kept calling. Other patients came and went. The afternoon shift started. New faces looked at me with pity. This old woman alone in the waiting room, and I wanted to disappear. By 5 o'clock, Amber's shift was ending. She knelt down beside my chair. "Mrs. Thornton, is there anyone else I can call?" I thought about it. My sister had passed 4 years ago. My husband, Gerald, had been gone for 6. I had a few friends from church, but I hated to bother anyone. "There's one person," I said. I gave her a number I hadn't called in months. 20 minutes later, Jolene walked through those doors like she'd been waiting her whole life for me to ask. She was 43, black hair pulled back, work boots still dusty from the construction site she managed. She took one look at me and her face went from worried to furious in about half a second. "How long have you been here?" "Since noon." She didn't say another word. Just helped me up, put her arm around my waist, and walked me to her truck. On the drive home, she called Derek's number one more time from her phone. Voicemail. She looked at me sideways. "When's the last time he actually showed up on time?" I didn't answer. Because the truth was something I hadn't been ready to say out loud. Let me tell you about Jolene, because you need to understand why she was the one who came. 18 years ago, I was the head librarian at Buncombe County Public Library. Jolene was 19, pregnant, recently aged out of foster care, sleeping in her car behind the Dollar General. She came into the library every morning when we opened, not to read, just to sit somewhere warm. I noticed her the third day. The way she held her stomach, the way she flinched when the door slammed, the circles under her eyes so dark they looked like bruises. I brought her coffee one morning and sat down across from her. "You look like you could use a friend," I said. She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Nobody had been kind to her in a very long time. Over the next 7 months, I helped her find a shelter, then transitional housing. I drove her to prenatal appointments. I connected her with a job training program. When her daughter, Maya, was born, I was in the delivery room because there was no one else to be there. "Mrs. Thornton," she'd said, holding that baby, tears streaming down her face, "you're the only person who ever stayed." I stayed for 18 years, watched Jolene get her GED, then her contractor's license, watched Maya grow from a tiny, squalling infant into a bright 16-year-old who called me Grandma Ruth and meant it. Jolene called every Sunday, visited every holiday, brought me soup when I got sick, fixed my porch railing when it wobbled. She wasn't my blood. She was something better. She was my proof that love isn't something you're born into, it's something you build. Now, back to Derek. When Jolene got me home that Tuesday evening, 9 hours after I'd been dropped off at that clinic, I found my house exactly as I'd left it. Medication on the counter. Lights off. Gerald's old recliner waiting for me in the living room like it always did. Jolene got me settled, made sure I took my pills, heated up leftover soup. She wanted to stay the night. I told her I was fine. She didn't believe me but respected my stubbornness. "Call me if you need anything," she said at the door. "I mean it, Mrs. Thornton. Anything. Any hour." After she left, I sat in Gerald's chair and tried Derek's phone one more time. This time, it rang. He picked up on the 4th ring. "Hey, Mom." His voice was casual, relaxed, like nothing had happened. "Derek, where were you?" "Oh, something came up at work. A last-minute meeting. I totally lost track of time. I'm so sorry. Did you get home okay?" I sat in that waiting room for 9 hours. A pause. 9 hours? That can't be right. I dropped you off at like 8. 7:45. My appointment ended at noon. You were supposed to pick me up at 12. Another pause. Longer. Well, I mean, why didn't you just call an Uber? I'm 68 years old, Derek. I just had dialysis. I could barely stand up straight. I'm sorry, Mom. Really. It won't happen again. Listen, I've got to run. Vanessa's calling me for dinner. I'll make it up to you, okay? Love you. He hung up before I could respond. And I sat there in the dark, in Gerald's chair, feeling something I'd been pushing down for a very long time. Over the next week, I started noticing things I'd been choosing not to see. It was like the 9 hours in that waiting room had cleared some fog from my mind, and now everything was sharp and painful. Derek hadn't visited in 6 weeks. The last time he came, it was for 20 minutes. He'd sat on the edge of the couch like he was ready to bolt, talked about his new car, his promotion, Vanessa's kitchen renovation, never asked about my health, never asked about dialysis. Checked his phone 4 times. Before that, he'd canceled 3 Sunday dinners in a row. Work thing, Vanessa's parents are in town, Luke's got soccer. His son, my grandson, was 11. I hadn't seen him since Easter. I thought about the holidays. Last Thanksgiving, I'd cooked for 2 days. Turkey, sweet potatoes, Gerald's cornbread recipe. Derek and his family showed up 40 minutes late, 8:30, and left before I'd served the pie. Sorry, Mom. Luke has a birthday party to get to. Christmas was worse. They didn't come at all. Derek sent a gift card, $50, to a restaurant I'd never been to, with a note that said, "Merry Christmas, Mom. Treat yourself." Vanessa didn't even sign it. I'd made excuses for all of it. He's busy. He's building his career. He has a young family. That's what mothers do. We explain away the hurt because the alternative, admitting your child doesn't want you, is a kind of pain that doesn't have a name. But 9 hours in a waiting room is hard to explain away. The following Tuesday, my next dialysis appointment, Derek was supposed to drive me again. Monday night, he texted. Can't make it tomorrow. Work emergency. Can you figure something out? Jolene drove me. She took the morning off work without being asked. 2 days later, something happened that changed everything. I was at my Thursday morning Bible study at Grace Fellowship Church when my friend Pauline pulled me aside after the session. She had that look people get when they have bad news and don't know how to deliver it. "Ruth, honey, I need to tell you something. Your daughter-in-law called me last week." "Vanessa called you?" Pauline nodded, uncomfortable. She asked me some strange questions. "About you." She wanted to know if I'd noticed any changes in your behavior, memory issues, confusion, anything like that. My blood went cold. "What did you tell her?" "I told her you were sharp as a tack." "Which you are." But she kept pushing. She asked if you'd had any falls, if you seemed disoriented, if you forgot where you were sometimes. I told her absolutely not. Then she said something about being proactive about your care, whatever that means. And she asked me not to mention the call. The next day, Friday, I got a near-identical story from my neighbor, Beverly. Vanessa had called her too. Same questions. Memory problems, confusion, unsafe living alone. Beverly had said the same thing Pauline did. Ruth is perfectly fine, sharper than most people half her age. But Vanessa hadn't been satisfied with that answer either. 2 phone calls, 2 friends, the same script. My daughter-in-law was canvassing my social circle, asking if I was losing my mind, and she'd specifically asked both of them to keep it secret. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Gerald's side empty and cold, and I thought about every interaction I'd had with Derek and Vanessa in the past year. The shortened visits, the canceled dinners, the gift card Christmas, the 9 hours in the waiting room. And now this Vanessa calling my friends, planting seeds that I was declining. Something was very, very wrong. Saturday morning, Jolene came by with groceries. She did this every week, just showed up with bags of food and refused to take money for it. As she was stocking my fridge, I told her everything. The phone calls, Pauline, Beverly, the questions about my memory. Jolene set down a carton of eggs very slowly. Then she looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Cold, calculated, like the construction project manager she was, assessing structural damage. "Mrs. Thornton," she said quietly, "I need to tell you something too. I wasn't sure if I should, but now I am." She sat down at the kitchen table across from me. 3 weeks ago, I ran into Derek at the hardware store. We made small talk. He asked about Maya, about my work. Then he said something that stuck with me. He said, "We're thinking about moving Mom into an assisted living place. She's not doing so well. The dialysis is really taking a toll on her mentally." I told him that was news to me, that you seemed fine every time I saw you. He got weird about it, changed the subject fast. "And then, 2 days ago," Jolene continued, her voice tight, "I got a call from Vanessa. She wanted to know if I'd noticed any cognitive decline in you. Same questions your friends got." I told her she was out of her mind. "You're the most together person I know." She didn't like that answer. My hands were trembling. Jolene covered them with hers. "There's more," she said. "After that call, I got suspicious. I did something I probably shouldn't have, but I don't regret it. Maya babysits for their neighbors sometimes. Through her, I found out that Derek and Vanessa have been meeting with a real estate agent. About your house. My house. The house Gerald and I had built together in 1987, the house where I'd raised Derek. The house where Gerald had died in our bedroom with me holding his hand. 4 bedrooms, 2 acres, mountain views, in this market, worth close to $400,000. "That's not all," Jolene said. She pulled out her phone, showed me a screenshot. Maya had seen this on Vanessa's tablet when she was babysitting at the neighbor's house, but Vanessa had left her tablet there by accident. It was a web page, Crestview Memory Care Residence, an inquiry form. My name was already typed in. My age, my address, my medical conditions. Under reason for inquiry, someone had written, "Progressive cognitive decline, unable to manage daily living activities, family seeking full-time care placement." Every word a lie. I stared at that screenshot until the letters blurred. My son and his wife were trying to put me in a memory care facility. Not because I needed it, because they wanted my house. They wanted to sell it, take the money, and park me somewhere I couldn't object. The phone calls to Pauline and Beverly weren't concern. They were evidence gathering, building a paper trail that would support their claim that poor old Ruth was losing her marbles. And the day Derek left me at the dialysis center for 9 hours, he wasn't in a meeting. He was probably meeting with that real estate agent, walking through my home, measuring rooms, calculating his inheritance, while his mother sat in a plastic chair wondering if she'd been forgotten. The betrayal didn't hit me all at once. It came in waves. First, disbelief, then rage, then a grief so deep it felt physical, like my already failing kidneys had decided to take my heart down with them. But somewhere underneath all that pain, something else was growing, something hard and bright and unbreakable. I was done being the mother who made excuses, done being the woman who sat in waiting rooms hoping someone would remember she existed. If you've ever discovered that someone you loved was plotting against you behind your back, type 1 in the comments. If you believe parents deserve to be treated with dignity no matter what, type 2. And if you think it's never too late to fight back, type 3. I need to know you're with me, because what comes next, what I did, it changed everything. Monday morning, I called Patricia Langford, the estate attorney who'd handled Gerald's will. I'd known her for 20 years. She was sharp, no nonsense, and she didn't suffer fools. "Ruth," she said when I finished explaining, "I wish I could say I'm shocked, but this is the third case like this I've seen this year. Adult children trying to declare parents incompetent to access their assets. It's more common than people think. What are my options? We revise your will completely. Set up a protected trust for your grandson that his parents cannot touch. Disinherit Derek. I can also arrange a full cognitive evaluation with an independent physician so that if they try to challenge anything, we have documentation that you're of sound mind." "Do it," I said. "All of it." Patricia paused. "This is permanent, Ruth. Once we go down this road, there's no easy way back. Are you certain?" "I've never been more certain of anything since I married Gerald." She had everything ready in 5 days. During that time, I went about my life as usual. Dialysis on Tuesday and Thursday. Bible study on Wednesday. I didn't call Derek. He didn't call me. 5 days of silence from my own son while his mother rewrote her entire legacy. On Friday, I had the cognitive evaluation. Dr. Simmons spent 2 hours testing my memory, reasoning, orientation, executive function. She was thorough and kind. "Mrs. Thornton," she said at the end, signing the report, "you scored in the 93rd percentile for your age group. Your mind is excellent. Whatever anyone has told you about decline, they're wrong." I tucked that report into my purse like a loaded weapon. Saturday, I called Derek. Kept my voice light and easy, the way mothers do when they're holding a grenade behind their back. "Honey, I've been thinking. After the health scare with dialysis and everything, I should update my estate plan. Would you and Vanessa come to Patricia Langford's office on Wednesday at 2? I want to make sure everything is in order." The eagerness in his voice was nauseating. "Absolutely, Mom. That's really smart. We'll be there, Wednesday at 2. Got it." I heard Vanessa's voice in the background, excited, asking questions. Derek shushed her, but not fast enough. I heard the words "the house" before he covered the phone. Wednesday came. I wore my emerald green dress, the one Gerald had given me for our 40th anniversary. Jolene drove me. In the car, she looked at me with something between admiration and concern. "You sure you're ready for this?" "I've been ready for 6 years. I just didn't know it until now." Patricia's office was downtown, in one of those old brick buildings with high ceilings and dark wood furniture. The conference room had a long table, leather chairs, framed diplomas on the walls. Serious. Official. Exactly the right stage for what was about to happen. Jolene and I arrived early. Patricia had the documents arranged in neat folders. She looked at me over her reading glasses. "Last chance. Ruth." I sat down at the head of the table. No turning back. Derek and Vanessa arrived at exactly 2, both overdressed, Derek in a suit I'd never seen before, Vanessa in a silk blouse, hair freshly done, pearls at her throat. They walked in expecting a payday. Then they saw Jolene. Vanessa's smile disappeared. "What is she doing here?" "She's here at my invitation," I said. "Sit down." Derek's eyes darted between me and Jolene, calculating. "Mom, this is a family matter. Jolene is family." The word landed like a slap. They sat down. The tension was immediate. Patricia opened the session formally. We're here for the reading and execution of the revised last will and testament of Ruth Eleanor Thornton. Derek leaned forward. Vanessa clutched her purse. They were ready. But first, I said, I have some things to say. The room went still. I know about the phone calls. I looked directly at Vanessa. You called Pauline. You called Beverly. You asked them if I was losing my mind. You asked them to keep it secret. Vanessa's face went white. Derek shifted in his chair. I know about the real estate agent, I continued. I know you've been looking into selling my house. The house your father built. The house you grew up in. Mom. That's not. I'm not finished, Derek. Silence. I know about Crestview Memory Care. I pulled out the screenshot Jolene had shown me. I know you filled out an inquiry form with my name on it. I know you wrote that I have progressive cognitive decline and that I'm unable to manage daily living activities. Every word a lie. Derek's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. Vanessa was gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles were white. I pulled out Dr. Simmons's report and slid it across the table. I had a full cognitive evaluation 5 days ago. 93rd percentile. My mind is sharper than yours, Derek, because at least I know the difference between right and wrong. Mom, please, we were just worried about you. You live alone, the dialysis. You left me in a waiting room for 9 hours. My voice was steady. I didn't raise it. I didn't need to. 9 hours, Derek. Amber at the front desk called you 31 times. You didn't answer once. You weren't in a meeting. You were probably at my house with a real estate agent while I sat in a plastic chair so dizzy I couldn't stand up. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I continued. Your father died in that house. I held his hand for 3 days while he faded. You came to the funeral, stayed one night, and flew back to Charlotte the next morning. You said you had a client meeting you couldn't miss. Your father wasn't even cold in the ground. Derek's eyes were wet, playing the part. Vanessa intervened, voice tight and professional. Ruth, I understand you're upset, but let's not say things we'll regret. We're here about the estate. Let's focus on that. I turned to her. You're right. Let's focus on the estate. Patricia. Patricia opened the first folder. Her voice was measured and precise. The estate of Ruth Eleanor Thornton is valued at approximately $420,000, including the family home, savings, investments, and Gerald Thornton's life insurance policy. I watched Derek do the math in his head, watched Vanessa's eyes widen. Patricia continued. The revised will distributes as follows. To Lucas Thornton, grandson, a protected educational trust of $120,000. Managed by Patricia Langford as independent trustee. Funds to be used exclusively for tuition, books, and educational expenses. No parental access, oversight, or authority until the beneficiary reaches age 18. Vanessa interrupted. No parental access? That's 7 years away. He's 11. Exactly, I said. Patricia moved on. To Jolene Carter, $60,000, in recognition of 18 years of devoted care, loyalty, and the true meaning of family. Jolene gasped beside me. Mrs. Thornton, I can't. You can and you will. Derek's voice cracked. You're giving money to her? Over your own son? Patricia didn't pause. To Grace Fellowship Church, $80,000 for the Community Outreach Program. To the Gerald R. Thornton Memorial Scholarship Fund at Buncombe County Community College, $60,000. To the Appalachian Youth Housing Initiative, $40,000. Vanessa was adding it up. Her face was changing color with each line item. Mrs. Thornton retains $60,000 for personal medical expenses, living costs, and end-of-life care. Derek stood up. His chair scraped back hard enough to hit the wall. This is insane. She's clearly not in her right mind. The dialysis, the medication, she's been manipulated by this woman. He pointed at Jolene. Patricia reached into her folder with the calm of someone who had been waiting for exactly this moment. She produced Dr. Simmons' full report, Mrs. Thornton underwent a comprehensive neuropsychological evaluation 5 days ago with Dr. Helen Simmons, a board-certified neuropsychologist with 30 years of experience. She scored in the 93rd percentile. The report concludes, and I quote, that Mrs. Thornton demonstrates excellent cognitive function with no evidence of impairment. This will is legally sound, properly witnessed, and documented. We'll contest it, Vanessa said. Her voice was shaking. Undue influence. This woman clearly manipulated a vulnerable elderly person. Patricia's voice went ice cold. You're welcome to try, Mrs. Thornton. You'll spend $50,000 in legal fees and you'll lose. I've made sure of that. And I should mention that filing a fraudulent competency claim, which is exactly what that Crestview memory care inquiry amounts to, could have legal consequences of its own. The room went dead silent. Derek turned to me. His face was red. His hands were shaking. You're punishing us for one mistake? One missed pickup? I stood up from my chair. Not fast, not dramatic. Just a 68-year-old woman with bad kidneys rising to her feet with more dignity than her son had ever shown her. One mistake? Let me count, Derek. Your father's funeral one night, then you flew home. Thanksgiving 40 minutes and you left before pie. Christmas, a $50 gift card, you couldn't even come inside. 6 canceled Sunday dinners. Luke's birthday, I wasn't invited. 9 hours in a waiting room, 31 unanswered calls, and a memory care application filled with lies so you could sell my house and take my money. I looked at him, really looked at him for what felt like the first time in years. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern. And the pattern told me everything I needed to know. I was never your priority, Derek. I was your inheritance. Vanessa grabbed her purse. This isn't over. I sat back down. For me, it is. Derek paused at the door. He turned. His voice was quieter now, smaller. You'll regret this, Mom. When you're alone and sick and you need someone, you'll wish you hadn't done this. I looked at him steadily. I've been alone, Derek. I've been alone for 6 years. The only difference is now I'm choosing it instead of pretending you were choosing me. The door closed behind them. And in the silence that followed, I felt something I hadn't felt since Gerald died, whole. The weeks after were exactly what you'd expect. Derek called 4 times. Each call was a different strategy. The first call was tears. Mom, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. Can we start over? I said actions have consequences. He said I was being cruel. I hung up. The second call was anger. You're going to regret this. You're going to die alone. I said I'd rather die alone than die being used. He hung up. The third call was Vanessa, professional and sharp. Let's discuss this rationally, Ruth. There's still time to amend the documents. I said there was nothing to discuss. She threatened legal action again. I said to talk to Patricia. She hung up. The fourth call was guilt. Think about Lucas. You're hurting your own grandson. I said Lucas had $120,000 in a trust they couldn't touch, which was more than they'd saved for him. That was the last call. News moved through the church community quickly. People had noticed Derek's absence for years. They just hadn't said anything because families are private, and nobody wants to be the one to point out that a son doesn't visit his mother. But after the will reading, people started talking. And what they said surprised me. We always wondered why he never came to Sunday dinner anymore, Pauline said. You deserve so much better, Ruth. Gerald would be proud of you, Beverly said, squeezing my hand. Pastor James came to my house on a Saturday afternoon. We sat on the porch with lemonade. How are you really doing, Ruth? I told him the truth. It hurts. Every single day. He's my son. I carried him for 9 months. I taught him to ride a bike. I sat up with him when he had nightmares. And he tried to put me in a home so he could sell my house. How do I make peace with that? Pastor James was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something I'll never forget. Sometimes God doesn't remove the people who hurt us. He sends us the people who heal us. Look who's sitting in your living room every Sunday, Ruth. Look who drives you to dialysis. Look who God sent when your own blood turned away. Jolene. He was talking about Jolene. Over the next 2 months, I made changes. I listed the house. Not because Derek forced me to, but because I chose to. It was too big for one person. Too many rooms full of echoes. The market was strong. It sold in 3 weeks. The money went exactly where my will directed Luke's trust, the charities, my personal fund. I found a small apartment near downtown, close to the church, close to Jolene. One bedroom, a little kitchen, a balcony where I could see the Blue Ridge Mountains. The day I moved in, Jolene and Maya and half the church showed up with boxes and casseroles and a hand-painted sign Maya had made that said, "Home Sweet Home, Grandma Ruth." I cried so hard I could barely see. The apartment was small, but it was mine. Gerald's photo on the nightstand, his Bible on the bookshelf, Jolene's plant on the windowsill, already blooming, and on the refrigerator, held up by a magnet shaped like a butterfly, a drawing Lucas had made me months ago that Derek had never delivered. Jolene had gotten it to me through Maya's babysitting network. It showed two stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. Me and Grandma in wobbly crayon letters. 3 weeks after I moved in, there was a knock at my door on a Saturday morning. I opened it and my knees almost gave out. Lucas stood there. 11 years old, Gerald's brown eyes, his father's stubborn chin. Beside him was Maya, 16, trying to look casual but clearly nervous. "Hi, Grandma," Lucas said. His voice was small and uncertain, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be here. I knelt down, bad knees and all, and I held that boy so tight. He smelled like grass and soap and childhood, and for a moment the whole world was exactly right. "I missed you," he whispered. "I missed you more than you will ever know, sweetheart." We spent the afternoon together. Cookies I'd baked that morning, card games at my little kitchen table, Lucas telling me about school and his soccer team, and the book he was reading about dinosaurs. Normal things. Beautiful things. The things grandmothers and grandsons are supposed to share. When it was time to go, Lucas looked around my apartment. "It's small," he said. "It is. But it feels happy." Gerald used to say that about our first apartment, before we built the house. Small but happy. I guess it runs in the family. "Can I come back?" I looked at Maya. She nodded. "You can come back anytime." He hugged me one more time at the door. His arms barely reached around me. "I love you, Grandma." "I love you too, baby. More than all the stars." After they left, I stood in my small kitchen and cried. Not from sadness this time, from something else entirely. That was 4 months ago. It's January now and I'm still here. Still going to dialysis 3 times a week, still going to Bible study, still alive, still sharp, still standing. My health has stabilized. Dr. Patterson says my numbers are the best they've been in a year. He thinks the stress reduction has actually improved my kidney function. Turns out when you stop carrying the weight of people who don't want to carry you, your body notices. Jolene comes every Sunday for dinner. Maya calls me Grandma Ruth and means it. Lucas has visited 6 times since that first Saturday. Each visit a little longer. Each one a little more like normal. Pastor James and I play chess on Wednesday evenings. He lets me win, but I pretend not to notice. I started volunteering at the youth housing initiative that I donated to. Once a week, I sit with young people who aged out of foster care, the same population Jolene came from, and I help them with job applications, budgeting, life skills. They call me Miss Ruth. One of them, a 19-year-old named Tasha, told me last week that I reminded her of the grandmother she never had. I booked a trip, my first solo trip in 42 years, Savannah, Georgia, in March. 3 days of gardens and historic houses and shrimp and grits. I'm terrified. I'm excited. It's mine. Derek hasn't called in 2 months. Sometimes I pick up my phone and stare at his name in my contacts. My thumb hovers over the call button. Then I put the phone down. Not out of spite. Out of self-preservation. Because I know what would happen if I called. The same performance. The same empty promises, the same cycle of hope and disappointment that kept me trapped for years. Maybe he'll change. Maybe one day he'll show up at my door, not for money, not for the house, not for anything except his mother. Maybe he'll kneel down the way I knelt for Lucas and say the words I've been waiting to hear, not "I'm sorry," because sorry is easy. But I see you, Mom. I see what I did. And I want to do better. Maybe. But I'm not waiting for it anymore. People tell me blood is thicker than water. I used to believe that. Now I know the full saying, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The bonds we choose are stronger than the ones we're born into. I'm 68 years old. I have stage 4 kidney disease. I lost my son, though I wonder now if I ever really had him. But I gained Jolene, Maya, Lucas on Saturday mornings, a church family that brings me casseroles and chess games, and a 19-year-old named Tasha who's teaching me that it's never too late to be someone's safe place. God put Jolene in that library 18 years ago for a reason. I know that now. When my own family left me sitting in a waiting room for 9 hours, God had already prepared someone who would drive across town in 20 minutes. When my son tried to lock me away and sell my home, God had already placed a 16-year-old babysitter in the right house at the right time to find the truth. And when I thought I had nothing left, God reminded me that His love doesn't require me to shrink myself to receive it, that His plan for me didn't end when my kidneys failed or when my son failed me. Here's what I want to leave you with tonight, and I mean this with everything I have. Stop making yourself small for people who don't make room for you. Stop sitting in waiting rooms hoping someone will remember you exist. Stop accepting gift cards when you deserve presents. Stop explaining away the absence of people who should be showing up. You teach people how to treat you. For 6 years, I taught my son that he could ignore me, exclude me, and plan my removal from my own life, and I'd still be there with open arms and a warm plate of food. When I finally changed the lesson, he didn't like it, but that wasn't my problem anymore. If this story reached you tonight, if it reminded you that your worth isn't determined by the people who fail to see it, then please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Sapphire Revenge for more stories about courage, boundaries, and the quiet strength it takes to choose yourself. And drop a comment below. Tell me your story. Tell me about the Jolene in your life, the person who showed up when blood walked away. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read tonight. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Thank you for listening to an old woman with bad kidneys and a broken heart and a refrigerator covered in crayon drawings. Thank you for being my chosen family, even if just for these few minutes. Some stories shared on this channel may include fictionalized elements for educational and narrative purposes. If this isn't your kind of content, that's okay. But if you're here for the truth that it's never too late to reclaim your life, then welcome. I'm so glad you found me. Until next time, remember the only approval you truly need is your own and God's. Everything else is just noise.